Good morning, this is the Angry Capitalist. Trust you're all doing well today. This is my first time making a video in this format, but effectively a friend of mine had sent over a screenshot of a text conversation that they had had with someone who works in the pharmaceutical industry. This individual will go unnamed, but they discussed some of the problems that they were seeing in their local area. By the way, if you hear my cats freaking out, please don't worry. They're okay. They get fed at 8 a.m., but they don't understand why they shouldn't be fed now because they are starving. Starving critters. Okay, so here we go. So the text I'm going to read off here is from this individual who works in the pharmaceutical industry. They are a pharmacist at a location in Florida. Yes, CVS and Winn-Dixie, lots of my patients are scrambling. Public's already told me that they have zero idea how they're going to handle the volume. From the two of them, these are two pharmacies that are closing in their area. From the two of them, as they don't keep a large inventory on hand, so people may have to wait on meds. CVS is Caremark and pretty good for mail order, so is Express Scripts. Many of my patients prefer mail order, and then we send their acute meds like antibiotics or pain meds to the local pharmacy. So this is something that we'll likely see continuing to happen, which is kind of unfortunate, is that a lot of these in-person pharmacy stores may end up closing down. This goes into some issues with the supply chain of the pharmaceutical industry within the U.S. One sec, let me get some more coffee. There we go. Still pretty early, so still trying to get my my brain moving. So this is a symptom of a bunch of issues that we're seeing in a lag effect within the U.S. To put that into vernacular for people, we've known that there were going to be pharmaceutical shortages back in summer, like July, August. Something to keep in mind is the U.S. pharmaceutical industry, the overall healthcare industry, is very inelastic and a bit fragile. What I mean by that is that it's due to the regulatory structure and burden that's placed on it, as well as the industry practices at hand, it can't adjust very well or very quickly. So effectively, with COVID, a lot of different pharmaceutical manufacturers either went offline or reduced capacity, they reduced production, or they switched production to other things that were associated with the pandemic. Now, irregardless of the potential validity of the pandemic situation, irregardless of that, why this is a bit of a problem is that if we look at the fiscal year as of 2022 report from the FDA, so this is the report on the state of pharmaceutical quality. If you go to this report and you look on, which page is it here? Page 3. This will give you the total sites that are approved by the FDA to manufacture and produce drugs effectively to be sold within the U.S. Let me go ahead and switch this over to screen share, and I'll let you take a look at it. Bear with me here for one sec. Present. Screen share. Share screen. No, you don't need their audio. Chrome tab. Fiscal year report. Okay, here we go. Boom, there it is. So if you look at this list, this gives the total sites for 22, as well as the sites removed, sites added, etc., the net change of sites in different countries. And total, there are only 4,814 sites that produce pharmaceutical products for the US. Now, that may seem like a lot. Now, keep in mind, though, that a lot of these either temporarily went offline or reduced capacity due to shutdowns, etc. And only approximately 2,000 of those are within the US. Now, if we scroll up here, trying to find it. So to be clear as well, the sites indicated, this does exclude manufacturers that only produced alcohol-based hand sanitizers. That is something important to keep in mind because there was a huge increase of that kind of thing. Here we go. So if you follow my cursor right here, now if you go to of all FY 2022 drug manufacturing sites, 40% in the are in the no application sector, indicating that all products manufactured at those sites can be legally marketed in the US without approved FDA applications. So that includes the over-the-counter monograph products and unapproved prescription drug products and homeopathic products. The remaining 60% of sites manufacture at least one product. Now, something to keep in mind with that is that a lot of those 60 sites, many of them only produce one, maybe two different products. There are a good number that produce a multitude of different products. But if we look at the production here, so 40% of the total 4,800, or my apologies, 60%. I need to pull my actual calculator still for this because it's like 7 a.m. for me right now. Okay, so that leaves us with 2,888. Call it 2,900, rounding up a little bit. Sites that produce pharmaceutical products. Now, if a good number of those go offline, get shut down, have recalls, etc., we start to run into a lot of problems with our supply chain. And stop the screen, sure. So that's a big problem that we face here in the US, is that additionally, within those sites that are monitored by the FDA, a good number of those are also dedicated to producing. They're not production facilities. They're more of R&D firms. What that effectively means is, rather than pumping out a given product that's going to go to the market, to be prescribed or to go to the over-the-counter marketplace, a lot of those are also firms that are developing new drugs. Well, that's great because it gives us new drugs, new products. That can also throw the numbers a little bit off too. So the number of sites that are actually manufacturing products is probably even less than that. So something to keep in mind with this, and one of the reasons why we're going to face more issues with this is that total the total capacity of the industry to produce pharmaceutical products is largely being hampered by the FDA's policies and procedures, given that it's just a little bit too slow, too burdensome. And I highly recommend checking out End the FDA Drug Monopoly. It's an article by Cato, by the Cato organization. Effectively, people talk about big pharma, but what they don't fully understand upon that is that we have very few pharmaceutical companies that actually produce drugs. And as a result of that, we have this kind of this stagnant, inelastic supply. So if you have a whole bunch of small to mid-sized manufacturers, and if one of them gets shut down due to a genuine health or safety concern, no big deal. But because, out of those 2,000 facilities, if a certain percentage of them get shut down or certain production lines get shut down, that can really impact the production of desperately needed pharmaceutical products. Another issue with this too is with the importation of pharmaceutical products. The regulatory structure on that it's a nightmare. So in order to sell a prescribed drug, you have to be on the FDA's list. And if I remember correctly, they do also have to have FDA personnel overseeing the site consistently. Going back to 2022, many of these sites had to shut down just because they weren't able to have the FDA inspector effectively on hand on the site. I would strongly recommend people to check out Canada's pharmaceutical regulatory structure compared to the U.S. Many U.S. citizens look to the U.S. as this bastion of a healthcare system because it's single payer and because that's what they want. But really, one of the true success stories in Canada is the pharmaceutical industry, largely because it's less regulated. It's more of a free market than the U.S. is. Now, when I'm talking about regulation, many people are going to be concerned about the safety ramifications. Keep in mind, we get alerts constantly of various pharmaceutical products approved by the FDA that later it comes out and it's like, oh yeah, there's this horrible side effect. Or that we get contamination warnings, etc. The amount of harm that's prevented by the FDA, in effect, I'm very skeptical of that. Now, that's not to say that we don't, of course, need certain common practices, safety concerns, ensuring that if there's a concern with a product that it gets recalled, etc., as well as solid third-party testing. But what I'm getting at with that is the FDA. Come on, we all know that they approve some stuff that shouldn't be approved. Just look at the pain management medication with the opioid epidemic. Looking at this, there is something else to keep in mind as well when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry going into the future. Not only are we having problems with the supply chain Another thing to keep in mind is the number of Americans, I'm talking about the boomer generation now, who are getting up there in years, going into retirement or past retirement, who, quite frankly, are going to have more health concerns going forward. This will likely increase the demand for pharmaceutical products quite significantly, and honestly, we just don't have the capacity, in my estimation, to appropriately deal with that. So yeah, these are a few of the problems I see with the pharmaceutical industry. The number of approved manufacturers that are out there, as well as the scope of our capacity to manufacture, is not as high as it could be. The number of marketplace actors, so keep in mind, that's roughly 4,000. We'll call it 3,000 or 2,900 manufacturers of prescription grade pharmaceuticals. A good number of those are owned by just a handful of large pharmaceutical companies who use this regulatory structure to prevent competitors. So increasing the number of manufacturing sites, but also increasing the number of actual pharmaceutical companies out there that produce this stuff and sell it. That way we can get some healthier competition in the American marketplace for the consumer. Additionally, keeping in mind that we are facing those demographic challenges associated with the age out of the boomer generation, and that the demand for a lot of these pharmaceutical products is only going to increase. I'm quite certain that many of the industry players know this, and it's not like they are incentivized to keep the prices low if they don't have to. The only reason why a company lowers its price is to get people to buy its product and or to beat out the competitor. So I highly recommend you check out the FDA's website. Once again, this is fiscal year 2022 report on the state of the pharmaceutical quality, as well as check out cato.org and FDA drug monopoly, let patients choose their medicines. So thank you for checking this out. If you have any personal anecdotes or stories or concerns about the industry, please go ahead and drop those down in the comments below. And outside of that, I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'm going to go ahead and finish my coffee and get the boys their food. So take care and have a good day.